All right, we do a little bit of a bonus section here of factoring and solving quadratics using factoring. Again, it's something you should have learned in Algebra 1, and so we'll go ahead and review it, and make sure you seek out some help if you don't remember this from last year. Okay, so let's talk about factoring first. So the most basic thing when you're talking about factoring is the first thing you should do is look for any common factors that you can pull out. So for example, in this first problem here, I can factor out a 4 from each of these terms because the 4 is in common between the 20 and the 12. I can factor out an x squared and a y. There's a y in both of these terms. And what I'm left with is 5x from the first term and 3 from the second term. You can always check to see if you did it right simply by distributing this back and seeing if you get what you started with. Okay, the next one here looks like I can factor out an x plus y from each of these, so x plus y. And I'm going to be left with z plus 2 plus 5 minus z. The z's drop out, and 2 plus 5 is 7, so it's just going to be x plus y times 7. Okay, so you get the idea for factoring out a common factor. Second type of problem that you can run into when we're doing factoring is difference of two perfect squares. And difference is talking about this minus sign between the two, and squares means that these are perfect squares. Okay, so when I factor this, I can factor it into two different binomials. And one's going to have a plus in the middle, one's going to have a minus in the middle. Hopefully you remember this. Basically, you need to find what times itself is equal to a squared. That's just going to be a and a here. And what times itself is going to be 4b squared, so that's just going to be 2b, and you're done. Let's take a look at something like this. This would be, okay, plus and a minus. 1 and a 1 goes here. 1 times 1 is 1. 4x squared and 4x squared is going to give me 16x to the fourth. Now you have to ask yourself, are you done here? And the answer quickly is no, because this is also a difference of two squares. It can be broken down into 1 minus 2x and 1 plus 2x. So the final answer is going to be this stuff times 1 plus 4x squared. And that would be factored completely. A perfect square trinomial is one that when you factor it, you're going to end up with a binomial squared. So let me just show you what that is. So first of all, you can see here that you can pull out an x. So I'm left with x squared minus 16x plus 64. Now let's focus on this portion right here. Okay? I can hopefully see that I can factor this to something squared. In this case, it's going to be x. It's going to be a minus 8, x minus 8 squared. So if I took x minus 8 and squared it, I would get x squared minus 16x plus 64. And so the completed factoring would just be x times x minus 8 squared. Quadratic trinomials. Okay, so this is the ones that are just pretty basic that we're asking you to factor. I can factor this first one when there's a 1 in front of the 1 is the coefficient in front of the x squared term. I can factor this to x and x here, and then what I do is I look for two numbers that multiply to negative 14 and add to positive 5. So in this case, it'll be plus 7 and minus 2. and that is factored completely. Now, it becomes trickier when there's a 2 in front of the x squared. It's not a 1. So I'm going to use guess and check. If you have some special method, river method, I've seen kids do something with the box like this method, Lizzie method, I use good old guess and check. So I ask myself, what is going to give me the 2x squared? Well, it's got to be 2x and x here and here. And then what's going to give me negative 2? It's got to be these two right here, this one and this one. So I'm going to try some things. I'm going to try putting like a negative 2 here and a positive 1 here, for example. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the inside and the outers to see negative 2x and positive 2x. That does not give me negative 3x. So back to the drawing board. Go ahead and erase this. And let's try instead, let's try plus 1 here and minus 2 here. So it's going to give me 1x and negative 4x, which adds up to this guy right here, negative 3x. So I'm good. That is completely factored. Let's try one more. Let's try this one right here, over here. So it's going to be, I know that the first two have to be 3x and x. And it looks like I can put maybe a 1 here and a 2 here. Check it. That's 1x and 6x, which gives me 7x. That's not what I'm looking for, so maybe let's flip it. Let's make this 2 and make this a 1. So this becomes 2x, and this becomes 3x. And guess what? 2x plus 3x adds up to 5x. And we're good. That is factored completely. Okay, let's jump to the backside now, and let's talk about what to do when we're solving a quadratic, and let's solve it using factoring. So let's jump to the backside. Okay, exciting times. We're on to the backside. We're halfway down the worksheet, and we are solving for x now. I know I'm solving for x because I have an equation as opposed to an expression. I have an equation which has an equal sign in it. So there's two ways I can solve this first problem. I can go ahead and do like x squared equals, and then bring the 16 over this way. That's going to be equal to 9, right? Subtract 16 from both sides. Take the square root of both sides. I get the absolute value of x equals 3. X is equal to plus or minus 3. So I get two answers, plus or minus 3. Should have learned that last year. The other way I can do this problem is I can bring the 25 over to the other direction, and so it's going to be x squared minus 9 equals 0. I can factor this because I can hopefully see that it's a difference of two squares. X minus 3, x plus 3, x is equal to 3 or negative 3, using what's called zero product property, ZPP. So zero product property basically says, and hopefully this rings a bell from last year, that if the left side of the equation is equal to 0, then either this one has to be equal to 0 or this one has to be equal to 0. That's the only way. If you're going to multiply two things on the left side, one of them has to be equal to 0 in order to get get that left side to equal 0. Okay. Let's solve a couple more using factoring. Let's go after this one down at the bottom here, number 5. Let's just solve one more. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is factor the left side of this thing. Guess and check. I know that this has got to be a 5x and an x in order to get my 5x squared. It's the only way it'll work. And then to get the negative 6, I'm just going to, I know that I can try 3 times 2. I could try 1 times 6. Let's try the 3 times 2. Let's do, I don't know, plus 3 here, minus 2 here. That'll give me negative 6. And then I'm going to check the middle and the middle 2 and the outer 2. I get 3x and negative 10x. Oh, hey! These two add up to negative 7x. I got lucky. Alright. So set that equal to 0. Now I can do zero product property, which basically means, again, that either this is equal to 0 or that is equal to 0. So 5x plus 3 has to be equal to 0, or x minus 2 has to be equal to 0. So 5x equals negative 3, x equals negative 3/5, or x is equal to, we're just putting the 2 over 2. So my two answers are negative 3/5 or positive 2. Okay, so hopefully that was something that you remember from last year, and if not, make sure you seek out the help. Okay, take care.